This story is titled A Betrayal Before I Do. I never thought my love story would turn into a nightmare. My name is Emily, I'm 42 years old, and for the past 2 years I believed I had found my perfect match. His name is Daniel. Charming, devoted, and the kind of man who could make a room light up with his laughter. I was absolutely certain that marrying him was the right decision, until one night changed everything. Daniel's bachelor party was supposed to be a night of harmless fun. His best man, Ethan, had planned it, a small gathering at a high-end lounge, nothing wild, nothing questionable. Or so I thought. The party was men only, so of course I wasn't invited. I trusted Daniel. Why wouldn't I? He had never given me a reason to doubt him. But trust is a fragile thing, isn't it? The night started off normal. I stayed home watching a movie, trying to ignore the tiny pang of unease in my gut. Maybe it was wedding jitters. Maybe it was the stress of planning the event of our lives. I told myself to relax. Daniel loves you. He would never do anything to hurt you. But at 11:45 p.m., my phone buzzed. A message from my cousin Jenna. "Hey, are you awake? I need to tell you something. It's about Daniel." My stomach tightened. I called her immediately, my heart thumping against my ribs. "Emily, I didn't know if I should tell you this, but I saw Daniel tonight. He wasn't just having drinks with the guys. He was flirting with someone, a woman. I think they even danced together." The world around me went still. "Are you sure?" My voice was barely a whisper. "I wouldn't lie to you," Jenna said, her voice hesitant but firm. "I was at the same lounge with some friends. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but it didn't look innocent. He had his hands on her waist, laughing, whispering something in her ear. I couldn't breathe. The man I was supposed to marry in 5 days was at his bachelor party, acting like a single man. My hands trembled as I hung up the phone. My mind was a battlefield, torn between disbelief and the ugly sting of reality. I needed to see it for myself. I threw on a jacket and called a cab. The ride felt endless, my pulse hammering in my throat. A part of me prayed Jenna was mistaken. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe there was a logical explanation. But another part of me, the part that knew how quickly trust could be shattered, was preparing for the worst. When I arrived, the lounge was dimly lit, elegant, filled with the low hum of music and conversation. My eyes scanned the crowd frantically, until they landed on him. Daniel. Laughing. With her. She was young, maybe late 20s, with dark wavy hair and a dress that clung to her curves. She was leaning into him, smiling as he whispered something in her ear. His hand rested lightly on her waist. It was intimate, familiar. The air was sucked from my lungs. My fiancé, the man I trusted with my heart, was standing there, looking at another woman the way he used to look at me. I should have walked away. I should have left before my knees buckled, before my heart crumbled to dust in my chest. But instead, I did something I never imagined I'd do. I marched straight toward him. Daniel. His name came out sharper than I intended, and when he turned to face me, his smile faltered. His expression shifted from surprise to guilt in a matter of seconds. "Emily, what are you doing here?" I ignored the woman beside him. She stepped back slightly, sensing the tension. But I didn't care about her. I cared about him, about the truth. "I could ask you the same thing," I shot back. "But I think I already know the answer." His eyes darted around the room as if searching for an escape. But there was none. "It's not what it looks like." Oh, how many times had I heard those words in movies and books? How many times had women before me been fed the same hollow excuse? "Really?" My voice cracked, but I forced myself to stay steady, because it looks exactly like what it is. He sighed, running a hand through his hair, frustration flickering across his face. "Emily, it was just harmless fun. I was drinking. I got carried away." "Carried away?" My chest ached. "You're about to marry me, Daniel. How do you get carried away with another woman?" He hesitated, just for a moment, and that moment was enough. Enough for doubt to plant itself deep inside me, twisting, growing, poisoning everything I thought I knew about our love. "I swear, it didn't mean anything," he insisted. "I would never cheat on you." "But cheating isn't always physical, is it? Sometimes it's the stolen glances, the intimate whispers, the touches that linger too long. The moment you forget the person you promised to love and let your attention wander to someone else." I turned to leave, my entire body trembling. But Daniel grabbed my arm gently. "Emily, please." I pulled away. "I need to think." And I walked out. The cold air hit me like a slap, but it wasn't enough to numb the pain, the betrayal, the terrifying realization that maybe, just maybe, the man I was about to marry wasn't the man I thought he was. I sat in the cab, staring out the window, tears slipping silently down my cheeks. My wedding dress was hanging in my closet. The invitations had been sent. The guests were arriving soon. But was I about to make the biggest mistake of my life? I spent the night staring at the ceiling, my mind a whirlwind of doubt and heartbreak. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them. Daniel and that woman, the way he leaned in, the way she smiled at him, the way his hands rested so easily on her waist. Morning came, but the ache in my chest didn't fade. I was supposed to be picking up my wedding dress today, supposed to be finalizing last-minute details. Instead, I was sitting on my couch, numb, staring at my phone. Daniel had called me 5 times. He had texted me even more. "Emily, please, we need to talk." It was just a stupid mistake. It didn't mean anything. "I love you. Don't let this ruin everything." I should have felt reassured. I should have wanted to talk. But all I felt was doubt. Could I really marry a man who could so easily betray my trust? Even if it was just a moment, wasn't that enough to question everything? The knock on my door startled me. My heart leaped into my throat. I knew who it was before I even opened it. Daniel. His face was pale, his blue eyes filled with regret. He looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept either. For a moment, we just stood there, staring at each other. "Can I come in?" he asked, voice soft. I stepped aside, letting him enter. He walked in slowly, hesitating, like he was afraid I might break if he moved too quickly. "Emily, I messed up. I was drunk. I wasn't thinking. But I swear to you it meant nothing." I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "Nothing? That's funny, because to me it meant everything." He exhaled, rubbing his face. "I get it. I love you. I want to marry you. That hasn't changed. Maybe it hasn't changed for you, but for me, everything's different now." Silence. Heavy. Painful. Then his voice dropped. "Are you calling off the wedding?" I swallowed hard. My chest felt like it was caving in. I loved him. I did. But love wasn't supposed to hurt like this. Love wasn't supposed to feel like doubt. I don't know if I can marry someone I don't completely trust. Daniel looked at me, his expression shattering. "Emily, please?" But sometimes love isn't enough. And as I looked at him, the man I almost married, I knew my answer. I took a shaky breath. "I think you should go." His face crumpled, but he nodded. He turned, walking to the door, pausing just before he stepped out. "I never wanted to hurt you." I wiped at my tears. "But you did." And with that, he was gone. The wedding was canceled. The dress went back to the boutique. The venue, the flowers, the plans, everything unraveled. People called, some to check on me, others to gossip. But in the end, none of it mattered because I had made the hardest decision of my life. And I knew deep down I had made the right one. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Have you ever faced a moment of betrayal? Share your thoughts below.